Welcome to Larry's Library, and welcome to a new Check-In Weekly. This week, I continued my read-through of the original Fantastic Four run in omnibus form. I'm still working on Volume 4. This one collects let's see here, my notes, 94 through 125. I just finished reading John Romita's short run. He did like 5 or 6 issues, not very many, after Kirby left, but before Big John Buscema came in. John Romita came in there, and his run starts off very shaky. The first 2 issues are inked by John Verpoorten, and I did not think that was a good fit. Very shaky, rough inks here, and in some of the notes, the introductions that's in between some of the issues, it's mentioned that he was aping Jack Kirby. He felt like he needed to do that because Kirby had been the only one to draw any FF issues until he stepped in. I don't know what he was doing, but I think it was a combination of maybe him trying to do that and he should have just been himself, and the John Verpoorten rough inks. I did not think it was good. After 3 or 4 issues of that, Joe Sennett steps in and cleans up the town because his his inks are tight and clean, and man, it was a really good fit, and I loved it then. I thought it was a nice look. Very tight, very clean. And then his short run was over. We got used to the better inks. A couple issues of that, he was out of there. And then Big John Buscema steps in. So I'm just a little over 300 pages into Fantastic Four Omnibus Volume 4. So I am just now reading the first issues of the John Buscema run. And right out of the gate, Joe Sennett continues on inking. I wonder what Joe Sennett's run is for inking the Fantastic Four. I know it's not uninterrupted, though, because Frank Giacoia and John Verpoorten, as I mentioned here, and others did step in at various issues. But man, I'm wondering if he's maybe inked more issues of FF than anyone. I'm sure I can look that up. Maybe I will for next week's show. Maybe I'll do that. Like I said, so far, the John Buscema stuff is looking good, and I'm enjoying it. So I'll update you further next week. I did take a little break on that Omni, and I went ahead and read the Spider-Man Spirits of the Earth original graphic novel. Now, I have the hardcover of this one. This was published in 1990. It was worked on, throughout the late 80s, and then they published it in 1990 as a Marvel graphic novel. But I don't think it was in the series of numbered Marvel graphic novels. At least I couldn't find it when I looked in the listings that way. I think it was standalone. I'm guessing by the early 90s, that was probably that series had ended or was on the way to ending. Didn't research that. I'm just kind of going off hazy memory here. But anyway, this one is still available, by the way, in the form of a trade paperback. And I think it's standard size, sadly. And I say sadly because all of these older Marvel graphic novels were magazine size. So we would call that a deluxe hardcover, if you put it in a hardcover and you kept the ratio the same. And that's what they've done with the copy I have here, which I got on eBay. And I think you can still get these for not too much on eBay if you want to look for this, because it is definitely a sometimes overlooked hidden gem, I think. Anyway, this is Charles Vess writing and doing the art. It's penciled, and then I think he paints it. It looks like watercolors to me. I think that's what it is. It is gorgeous. Oh, man, just beautiful art. Love Charles Vess. If you haven't experienced Charles Vess, you're in for a treat. Look him up. Great, great art. So this is a short one, like all the old Marvel graphic novels. Not very long. This one's like 80 pages, 82 maybe, with the extra back material, which I'll tell you about that in a minute. So because of, this was published in 1990, Peter Parker is still married to Mary Jane Watson. And Mary Jane, she inherits some, like a cottage and some property in the Scottish Highlands. So they travel to Scotland to settle this estate. And of course, stuff happens. I'm not going to give away too much, but there seems to be some ghosts and hauntings and whatnot, and things aren't as they appear. But this is largely a sort of a fish out of water tale, where we take Peter Parker, Spider-Man, who is used to being in a concrete jungle and is quite happy there, and now you pull him completely out of his element and you have him in the Scottish countryside. These long areas, big, wide areas where there's not a whole lot, and there's certainly no very tall buildings for him to swing from. So it's really cool. And I love the story, and I love the art even more. It's spectacular. If you can find this one, it's highly recommended. And if you can, get the hardcover because it's bigger. It's a nice magazine size format. There is a great article in the back by Charles Vess. He talks about a trip he took to Scotland where he explored the countryside. And one of the people that were with him was another great artist, Mike Kaluta. So that was kind of interesting. Yeah, this one was short and sweet. Wish it could have been more. I'm wondering if this would be a good candidate for Marvel to put in my favorite format, the gallery edition. That would be cool. And the galleries are wider, by default. That's the trim size is wider. That's why they put that color bar strip across the side there. So they can probably scale this up and not even have to have that bar that a lot of people are annoyed by. So I don't know. I'd buy it. I'd buy a gallery of this in a heartbeat. So finally got to watch the Deadpool and Wolverine movie. It's on Disney Plus now, so I didn't have to buy it. And I didn't have to go outside my domicile, where the people are. So I finally got to watch this. And of course, I loved it. No spoiler there. These Deadpool movies have been great. I got to confess something, and I know it's unpopular to say, but I'm just not a big, huge Deadpool fan. As far as the comic book Deadpool, I am much more a fan of movie Deadpool than I am comic book Deadpool, which is a reverse for me. As far as most Marvel characters, I'm the reverse. But anyway, yeah, I mean, I don't hate him. I think he's fine. So I can sort of take or leave comic book Deadpool, but movie Deadpool, I'm there. It's great. And I reluctantly love Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. I say reluctantly because, as a short man, I'm still not comfortable with, the MCU just taking Wolverine and making him a 6-footer. I just, that doesn't sit well with me. But I gotta admit, Hugh Jackman was great as Wolverine. And we thought we'd seen the last of it, when he died in the last Wolverine movie, but we got him back again for this, and it's great. Of course, most of you've probably already seen this one. So, but if you haven't, I will have a couple of very minor, mild spoilers coming up, so beware. But I won't give too much away. I mean, not like social media hasn't given away most of this movie by now anyway, but, So, first, let's talk about this yellow costume. Not a fan. And now, I have to say, though, the movie did a pretty good job. This is fairly comic book accurate as far as the yellow Wolverine suit. And there's been various iterations over the years, but this is kind of an amalgamation of all of them. And it serves to sort of represent the yellow Wolverine costume, which I've never been a big fan of at all. I much prefer the John Byrne brown and tan. That's my Wolverine costume. That's my favorite. And in this movie, here's a mild spoiler, you get to see the brown and tan costume just for not even a minute. It's like 30 seconds it's on screen. I found this still here. This is the cleanest one I could find. And I scaled it up to 4K. And I tried to brighten it a little bit so you could see the detail. It's really well done. I would have loved this to have been the one they used throughout the film, but, they didn't ask me. Oh, and by the way, when you see this flashed on the screen, Ryan Reynolds actually says the words. He says, John Byrne brown and tan costume. So I really love that. I loved a lot of little bits in this movie. There are just a ton of little Easter eggs and tons of characters that we thought we'd never see depicted from the comics are in this movie. And I gotta say, they're all done so comic book accurate. It's just ridiculous. It's so great how this movie's been able to do it. And some of the other movies just, I don't understand, why they can't just take the creative energy here and the attention to detail and let that loose on the rest of the MCU, because this is how you do it, okay? This is it. And it's, this movie me and my wife made us laugh out loud several times. So it's action-packed, it's funny as hell, and it is a love letter to the Marvel comic books that inspired it. It really is. Yeah, so I just loved it. I also love how they lean into the TVA lore that was so nicely illustrated in detail in the Loki TV series. and they just run with it here. You get to see more of the TVA. And that ends the spoilers I'm going to give you here. I'm not going to give anything else away, but yeah, this is a great representation of the Marvel Universe on film. This is it. It's pretty great. I'm not sure where it would rank in my favorite Marvel MCU movies. I don't know. I'd have to think about that. Maybe that'd be a good top 10. Let me know down below if you'd like to see that. Might be time to do that. I don't know. Oh, I have another cash-in situation update. And this is a good one. Now, if you've been watching these shows, then you know what I'm talking about. If not, go back and look at last week's. I'll put a playlist link up there because this is, I think, the 4th episode in the new format I'm using for these videos. And basically, just to quickly summarize, I don't want to retread too much, but I had the Silver Surfer Taschen book, the great big giant one, and it had a couple of printing defects. Here's a picture to remind you or to show you if you haven't seen these videos before. And I had, as of last week, I had emailed them using their web form and, you know, offered to give pictures, whatever they want. And they never answered. I mean, a week went by, never got a reply. Well, Mary M., bless her heart, she commented on my last video, and she said, hey, you should reach out to them via Instagram, because a lot of these companies respond quicker through social media than they do with old school email. And you know what? Mary was right. I reached out to them via Instagram. They answered right away, less than 24 hours, and they forwarded all of my info from there to their support team, which should have got it through the web form, but they claim they never got anything. Well, I think they need to be checking on that web form. I mean, I'm glad of the result, don't get me wrong, but here's the thing. A company shouldn't rely on social media, a closed system like Instagram or Facebook, to handle these things, because you shouldn't assume that everyone on planet Earth has an account with these proprietary websites, and they shouldn't have to. You know, that's it's not cool. The web is an open standard. A web form should be something anyone can use. You know, I mean, that should be the de facto way you handle this. I mean, you know, some people don't have these social media accounts because they don't like the privacy invasion and all that goes along with it. So it's not cool that I had to do it this way. But I'm glad it worked regardless. And after they started communicating with me via email. They took my pictures. They looked at them, like this one here. And they said, hey, even though you bought during the half price sale, this looks like a production problem, so this shouldn't have happened. So they sent me a UPS paid printable label, printed that out, got the book going back to them right now. So fingers crossed I get a new copy sent back. So thank you, Mary M., once again. So as far as prose, I am nearly halfway through the J.R. Tolkien's Silmarillion. I think that's how you pronounce it. And it's much better now, gotta say. My favorite chapter and story so far is called, it's chapter 19 of Byrne and Luthien. And I really enjoyed this one. This was the story of a human and an elf and their sort of star-crossed relationship. And it was very enjoyable. And it was a nice narrative. Had a nice beginning, middle, and ending without a lot of, listings of who begat who, like in the Bible. This was not like that. So really enjoyed this one. Hopefully there'll be more stories like this in the second half. We'll see. My single issue read for last week was Incredible Hulk 315. So this is the second, I believe the second issue of John Byrne's run where he's doing the story and the art. In this one, the Hulk and Banner are physically separated. They're split into two beings. I'm not sure if my memory's right, but I think this is the second time this has happened, maybe. Because I remember reading this once before, but I have been reading it in Omni for some of the other runs. So correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. Yeah, this cover is sort of weird, but I like it. Yeah, it's been another enjoyable John Byrne issue. And I'm a sucker for John Byrne, and I wish his run on this would have been longer. I know they did put this run in an Omni recently, but they had to mix it with, what is it, Howard Mackey's run, maybe? I'm not sure. And I decided not to buy that Omni, and just to keep my singles of the John Byrne specific issues, since it was so short. I can't buy all the Omnis. I know it seems like I do to some people, my daughter, but I don't, and I just can't buy all of them. So I did opt out of that one. But I'm going to keep my singles here. Now, I would take a gallery edition of the John Byrne run. That would work, but can't see him doing that. But you never know. If Marvel ever starts to run out of stuff to mine for these high-priced hardcovers, maybe they'll get around to some of those things like that. I don't know. Last but certainly not least is I have a little bit of Darkroom Book 2 news that I can share. Just a little. This one's been delayed and pushed back many times, unfortunately. And I've been in contact with Scott Buoncristiano, the artist. He's very cool. I did interview him once on the channel. If you haven't seen that, I'll try to link that up above if I can remember to do that. And I'll link up my review of Darkroom Book 1, which I loved that. And anyway, this is the cover for Book 2. And it's been pushed back, like I said, and it did slip off the schedule for this year, so we're not going to get it this year, sadly. Now, Scott Buoncristiano, the artist, he did confirm for me that the plan is for a release in Q1 of 2025, so first quarter next year. He also said that as far as he knows, and he should know, they still do not have a hard release date as far as which day and which, the exact date. And that's despite what Amazon and Simon & Schuster and some other places or some other outlets are reporting May 27th, 2025. Now, he doesn't know where they got that date. So it could be accurate, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. And he did tell me that, to my delight, that I will get an advanced PDF of this way ahead of the release date. So I should be able to hopefully get an exclusive review up. It'll be the first for Larry's Library if I can. So that'd be awesome. Be sure to follow Scott Buoncristiano's Instagram page. He posts a lot of cool art, and sometimes they're animated so you can see his process a little bit. He draws lots of skulls and other creepy horror images and other things. It's great stuff. Highly recommend you follow him on Instagram if you use Instagram. Great stuff there. I'll put a link to his Instagram down below. So that is about all I got this week for you. People seem to be enjoying the new format. Really glad of that, because this is something I think is more sustainable than what I was doing before. They relied heavily on lots of scans, and it just took a lot of time that I don't have working a full-time job. Maybe after I retire, I can do a mix of all these things, and it'll be easier. But that's still a few years away, unfortunately. But glad you're liking these, and subscribe if you haven't already. And I will catch you next week, if not sooner than that.